Welcome back to the News Hub here at WSJ Live. I'm Simon Constable. Well, in China, getting rich can get you into trouble. John Bussey, the Wall Street Journal, is here to tell us all about this. And you know a lot about China because you were a bureau chief out there.
This is a complicated place, and if
China or the Wall Street Journal?
Yeah. No, the China. And if you make a lot of money, the resentment that the public feels about that is based on the pervasive corruption that China is still contending with. This is a new, burgeoning, fast-growing economy. And they have troubles, these dislocations. So a group of researchers looked at the issue of companies that get a lot of publicity on these famous, top 50 lists, the billionaires list or the millionaires list. And then what happens to the companies and what happens to the individuals who lead those listed companies. And what they found was quite interesting. Very soon after they make the list and they get the publicity, the share prices begin to decline. The companies themselves are more subject to the government cutting off subsidies to them, and the individuals who lead them are more subject to investigation. Why that is actually quite interesting.
Now, one thing that you have in your column here, it says roughly over the whole world, this gives an idea of sort of wealth distribution. In the whole world, there's about 1% of global households hold 40% of the world's wealth, right? Private wealth. And in China, it's 0.4%. Which is minuscule, controls 70% of the wealth. I mean that's really concentrated.
It's highly concentrated. You have to remember, this is still a developing economy. So
very agricultural still in many ways.
Exactly. So you have a little bit less than half of the population still on the farm, and so that kind of skews these numbers. But you also have a government that is controlled by the Communist Party, and the party has its hands in a lot of the economy through these state-owned enterprises. State-owned enterprises, the estimates are upwards to close to half the economy are in one way or another affected by or controlled by the state-owned enterprises. When that happens, you have just immense dislocations and immense opportunity for corruption, and that's why the public kind of reacts to these rich people in a fairly negative way. And the government looks at these lists and says, look, why should we be subsidizing a wealthy company? The shareholders sell them down because they think that they're going to attract more attention from the government. And the government investigates them very often because there's a reason to.
Well, the corruption is interesting because quite often the Chinese government executes corrupt officials.
Yes.
I mean, which is you would think would actually stamp it out fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's right. And there are these well-publicized incidents where an official is arrested, a company leader or executive is arrested and then executed. But mind you, that's a very, very small fraction of the commercial activity in China. And the huge chunk of commercial activity that is controlled by the state kind of contorts what goes on in the private sector. And that's why you have the corruption to begin with. People go to develop relations with public officials because they can't count on the rule of law or other normal market mechanisms.
Sounds like reform is needed. We have to leave it there. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
John Bussey. You can read John's column in the Wall Street Journal tomorrow. It's called The Business.